What is up everyone, Bigjuicyhog here, welcome back to the channel. Today we have another bit of Vampire the Masquerade lore. Today we're going to be talking about another one of the factions, and that is the Sabbat. So without further ado, let's get into it. The Camarilla's archenemy is the monster sect known as the Sabbat. Perceived as mindless savages and bloodthirsty fiends by the Camarilla and independent clans alike, the Sabbat is vilified among the Society of the Damned, and for good reason. They're just not the reasons other kindred claim. While the kindred of the Camarilla espouse concealing themselves among mortals and maintaining the tattered vestiges of their humanity, the Sabbat favors a different philosophy. Not content to cower like beaten dogs from humans, nor to act as pawns in the schemes of their elders, Sabbat vampires instead prefer to revel in their undead nature. As the Sabbat reasons, vampires are a cut above mortals who are merely food or diversion. Isn't kindred vitae more powerful than mortal blood? Don't vampires have unnatural powers with which to assert themselves over the bovine masses? Who needs petty mortal mortality when one is a blood-drinking immortal monster? The Sabbat, though, involves far more than a simple carte blanche to behave as abominably as one chooses. Sabbat vampires are inherently alien, and their behavior reflects this. Sabbat vampires wish no place among humans, or those who pretend to be humans. They loathe humankind except as a sustenance, and they lack the ability to relate to vampires who cannot accept their natures. They even rebel against their own solitary unlives, traveling in wild nomadic packs instead of eking out secretive, isolated existences. For this reason, tensions run high in the Sabbat, and the sect's surroundings often suffer from it. Cities held by the sect are some of the most violent places in existence. Challenged for this dubious honor only where Sabbat and Camarilla vie for supremacy. Mexico City, Detroit, Miami, and Montreal are all under the purview of the Sabbat. Cities in contention include New York, Washington, D.C., Buffalo, and Atlanta. A city under Sabbat control or conquest is an explosive, volatile place. Murders occur nightly, and rape and robbery are to be expected at every turn. In the world of darkness, these cities have themselves grown towards the alien and away from the human, abandoned as they are the depredations of the monsters who prowl their alleyways. Thus, the Sabbat threatens every city it touches, creeping like a cancer into communities that remain oblivious until the war packs tear the city down around them. Though it's arguably no more evil than the degenerate elders of the Camarilla, the Sabbat is also universally more blatant, terrorizing the kind populace with insidious games and premeditated destruction. Now, more than ever before, the Sabbat has the Camarilla on the ropes. Many Camarilla neonates, frustrated by the unattainable power and stagnant ineffectiveness of their elders, have joined the Sabbat in open protest. Numerous cities that were once bastions of Camarilla strength now exist in stalemate or contention. Camarilla princes fear the swelling tide of the Sabbat, and with good cause. Their unlives and those of the kindred in their cities are on the line. Accordingly, Sabbat members in a Camarilla city can expect no quarter if exposed, as princes and primogen ruthlessly quash agents of the infernal insurrectionist sect. Many neonates, still wishing to please their sires and build a place for themselves in the Camarilla, aid their elders in the Sabbat prosecution. It would seem they prefer the evil they know than the one they've heard so many horrors about. Practices and organization. Sabbat culture revolves heavily around the twin principles of loyalty and freedom. Vampires, as superior beings, are free to do as they please, but they must also remain true to the Sabbat, lest their freedom be jeopardized by the machinations of the elders. Above all, the Sabbat refuses to be placed under the yoke of the antediluvians. Many of the sect's schemes involve means of frustrating, or at least surviving, Genna. The sect's two founding clans, the La Sombra and the Smise, are said to have diablerized and destroyed their progenitors. The other Sabbat vampires follow their lead, hoping that they may one night do the same. Internal rivalries, power plays, and ancient vendettas rend the sect from within. However, and the Sabbat often takes 2 steps back for every 3 it takes forward. The sect has no true, all-encompassing guidance. It's a hydra, doubling back to bite itself and its foes even as it gains its membership and influence. Sabbat vampires themselves, with the exception of the Sombra and the Smise, shepherds of the sect, mockingly claim to be anti-clans, or antitribu of their parent clans. Some Sabbat vampires openly involve themselves in Satanism, paganism, or other deviant faiths despite the propriety of those who stand against them. Perversion and brutality are the Sabbat's tools, and the sect uses them with a merciless cunning. The nucleus of the Sabbat's organization is the Pack, a loose confederation of vampires nominally united towards a single goal. Sabbat packs may be nomadic, traveling from city to city, leaving death and fire in their wakes, or they may settle in one location on a permanent basis. Because vampires are primarily solitary predators, forcing themselves into each other's company for prolonged periods of time certainly takes its toll on the individual kindred who make up the packs. Rituals. Sabbat vampires, upon their embrace, are unceremoniously buried in the ground. The subsequent rite of having to claw her way out of the cold, blind earth after having her head dashed open with a shovel strips away much of the Sabbat neonate's humanity. She is then ready to join her Sabbat sectmates as a monster rather than as a feeble, mewling kind. The Sabbat corrupts and distorts many conventions of the institutions that stand against it. Many of the rituals and practices of the sect stem from the Catholic Church, including partaking of the Valduri, a corruption of the Eucharist in which vampires drink from a chalice of their commingled vitae to strengthen loyalty. The vampires of the Sabbat also participate in numerous other rituals, of which there are seemingly endless number. The sect regularly makes use of fire, serpents, violence, and blood as its rituals, which may take the forms of fire dances, snake handling, torture, ceremonial killing, or other debased practices. The ritual's purpose is to create solidarity in the packmates who lead tense, hostile unlives and are prone to fractiousness and mistrust. Offices. The Sabbat, for all of its disorganization, maintains numerous positions for its members. Each pack usually has a priest who leads a pack in the rituals and sometimes in other affairs. The offices of the Archbishop, the vampire who oversees Sabbat activity at any given city, and Bishop, a vampire who assists the Archbishop and carries out her will, command great respect among vampires in a city where the kindred are encountered. Above these offices are those of the Cardinal, who coordinates Sabbat influence over a given region, and the Preci, singular Priestess, who act as advisors to the supreme leader of the sect, the Regent. The martial arm of the governing body comprises the Templars and the Paladins, who serve as assassins and bodyguards for the Regent, Preci, and Cardinals. Worrisome references are made to a sect within the sect, known as the Black Hand, but these are often simply confused references to the sect itself, which has used that moniker before. Anyways, that is going to be it for today's video. That is a quick rundown of the faction known as the Sabbat. Coming soon, we will have information on some of the clans within both of these factions, both the Camarilla and the Sabbat. So if you have any suggestions for my first one, leave it in the comments below, and I will catch you in the next video.